Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett, Alderman of the 27th Ward. I'm just grateful and thankful that we got past this election. I want to thank everyone for voting for me. I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to serve again and not have an opponent this time. So I'm very grateful to you all. I'm thankful to all of you all for coming out to vote, because the more you all vote, the better our ward look, the stronger we are. So numbers don't lie. So we need your numbers. I'm glad that you all are watching the show. I hope you tell someone else to watch the show. As you know, Network 27 is a show that we put together over 25 years ago. We got some great people helping us, and we want to thank them for all of their help. And it's a show that we put together to give people in the community the opportunity to see and hear about things that's going on in the neighborhood. You know, unfortunately, a lot of our non-for-profit organizations just get enough money to operate, but don't get enough money to market what they do. And sometimes they're right down the street from you and you don't even know what's going on. So we want to give them an opportunity to showcase what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how you can get involved if you want to. I know we have a runoff coming up in April. I need as many of you all to come out to vote as possible, you know, because that gives me strength when I'm in the city council. When an alderman can pull in a lot of votes, you know, it gives him leverage when he's trying to get stuff for his ward or her ward. So I need you. You all are my strength. So I'm only as strong as you guys allow me to be. So I appreciate it if everyone will come out to vote. If you need help to vote, you can call the office, 312-432-1995. We'll get you a ride, whatever you need. We just need folks to come out and vote. And we need to make sure that the 27th Ward is counted. So ladies and gentlemen, outside of that, we're blessed to have some folks here today that really is literally saving people's lives, right? There are some things, unfortunately, that goes on in our community, not only in our community, but in all communities, all across this city, this county, this state, this country, where folks are needing help. And so I'm going to allow them to tell you what it's about. I know you see their T-shirts with the Prevention Partnership Westsidetaskforce, right? So I know you see their T-shirts. So let me introduce them. So let me start out with the young lady, because ladies come first, right? Ms. Gail Richardson is the lead outreach worker for the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force. And then we have the director of the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force, Mr. Rusch. Lee Rusch. I apologize.
That's okay.
Lee Rusch. And then we also have the lead outreach worker, another lead outreach worker, which is Keith Davis. I want to thank you all very much for coming. This is an interesting thing that you all have going on here. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of what you all do, why don't you all tell us about yourselves? Lee, why don't you tell us who Lee Rusch is?
Okay.
Or Rusch is.
Rusch. Well, Rusch is the German pronunciation.
You related to Bobby? Not related to Bobby.
Not great. I got the C in the name to throw that off. Yeah, my name's Lee Rusch. I serve as the director of the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force. I'm one of the co-founders of Prevention Partnership, Inc., which is the organization that is the coordinating agency for the task force. I, along with two other people who are still part of our organization, Luther Sias and Al Orsello, co-founded the organization in 1986. The focus was primarily to do prevention work, and we do prevention work from a community systems approach, meaning that it isn't just the providers of substance use services that need to work together, it's all sectors, whether it's the faith-based community, the business community, schools, parents, medical profession, et cetera. Everybody has a part in dealing with the issues, identifying what they'd like to see happen in their community, and actually making it happen together. I've been in the field of substance abuse and prevention and youth work since I was probably 20 years old. My father was a YMCA director, so I learned from him and all the other people who worked for the YMCA, which was really, put the kids first. And I think that translates over to what we're trying to do, or what we're doing out here, is really putting the people we work with first, really listen to them, really include them in this process. So throughout the years I've worked not just with Prevention Partnership, but I worked for Task at 26 in California for some of their programs for people who were interested in going to treatment rather than jail. And I did street work with Youth Outreach Services back in the day on the Northwest side. That's where I kind of began my street work piece that runs a line that runs through to what we're doing right now. Being able to get out to the community, where people are. Young people back then, still they don't, but also the people that we work with on the street, on the west side, don't always access buildings when they have problems. That's a step too far for a lot of people to go into a building and ask for help, sit in a chair, wait to be heard. So we bring the services right back out to them. And
so Lee, how did you get involved with this? I mean, so what made you get involved with this? Are you a recovering addict, or are you a doctor, or what's the script?
I'm not a recovering addict. At the time I got into this work back in when I was 25 years old, I realized that there was a lot of hysteria about drugs. This is right at the time when kind of Nancy Reagan's Just Say No was coming out, and there were a lot of myths and misconceptions about drugs that were really being pushed at the time, kind of scare tactics, and they weren't working with young people. And I made a decision to get on the front end of this, to get on the prevention side, to go out and work with young people. When we started doing street work with young people, we knew that some of them were using marijuana, a lot of them were drinking, but we also had a real concern about angel dust and PCP, which was a drug that was really causing a lot of overdoses and trips to emergency rooms and tearing, scaring parents, so they didn't even want to talk to their kids about this. So the idea was to go out there and connect with them, to not go out there and just the first thing we say is don't do drugs. We wanted to find out about what was going on in their lives. As you know, teenagers are at a time when there's a lot of confusing things happening to them about how they fit in with their friends, how their body's developing, what they're doing in school, how they're getting along with parents. So we really tried to kind of not look past the drug use, but really understand that in order to really connect with young people, we needed to hear about them and what was going on in their lives.
So you're not a doctor, you're not a former drug user. Is this a Christian base? Are you a priest?
No, it's just, I think it was my experience in the YMCA.
Okay. So did you come doing this right out of college? Or?
I started, yeah. Well, actually, I started working in the Juvenile Department of Corrections right out of college.
Okay.
And that was one of my transformative experiences. I did summer job in 1972 out of college.
Okay.
I'm dating myself big time. And I worked at St. Charles Boys School.
Oh, wow.
Which at that time, you might as well have been out of Cool Hand Luke. I mean, it was, there was cottages, there were, it was a rough place.
Yeah, so Cool Hand Luke is like further back than that, man.
But there were some people who could have come out right out of that movie, some of the people working there.
Yeah.
But at that point, the Juvenile Justice Act of 1973 had not been passed yet. And so there were young people in there that had been incarcerated or been in the system since they were 9 and 10 years old, from runaway, truancies, all these kind of things that adults would not be put in jail for. So these young people in there that I ran into, were already institutionalized. In fact, they told me how to run the hall, some of them. So I remember having a voice in my head saying, I have to get on the front end of this. And that's when I became a preventionist. And after I left the St. Charles, I worked at Valley View Boys School, which was a similar situation, although it was for a minimum security piece. We had a behavioral modification program. And I worked there for a couple years. Then I worked at the YMCA. But I always wanted to do prevention. And when I was in DeKalb working at the YMCA, I saw that there was an outreach program starting on the northwest side of Chicago. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to get out there and work with the young people in the streets, kids who are scuffling and having a problem, because I want to keep them out of getting into these problems.
So do you have a social work background? Where did you take social work up in college? I mean, it's like where does a young person in their 20s come from diving into this type of thing, you know?
Let's put it this way. You asked me about drug use. I went to college in the 70s, so the 60s and 70s, so I'm going to leave it at that. I knew from some of my experience and my friends' experience that it didn't always devastate your life. It was a slippery slope. But that's why I came and decided, I'm just not going to scare kids about this. I'm not going to overlook what's going on, because it could be very much complicated in their lives. But at the same time, I'm not going to come in there and blow them away by just being anti, So this was a good niche for me. I loved working in Chicago. I grew up in Aurora, but I loved being in Chicago. And I guess I just wanted to be in the helping profession. And, I don't know if you can see on the camera, I have a prosthesis with a hook on which was, I was born without my forearm, on the right forearm. But I tell you, go out on the street and you have a hook on your hand, I mean, kids are going to come up and find out just what's going on with you. And so there was always an opportunity to kind of use that curiosity to kind of tell them why I was there, what we do, and introduce them to my coworkers and things like that. So, some people get into this line of work just out of many different rationales. But I did take psychology and sociology in college, even though I was an English major. And of course, throughout the years, I've been kept up and studied and understand pharmacology, understand the disease concept and the disorder aspect of all this. So I've kept abreast. And I've also been, with our work in the prevention program at Prevention Partnership, learned how to run meetings, learned how to get people to make decisions together and create action plans and move forward. So that's kind of that whole mishmash of skills that I bring to this role.
Fantastically. Well, thank you very much, and God bless you for what you do, man.
Thank you.
Just think, we wouldn't be here if you wasn't in your 20s starting this.
Exactly.
So we really appreciate that. So, Gail, why don't you tell the audience who Gail is and how you got into this?
My name is Gail Richardson. I've been on the West Side 66 years. I got into this after I got out of federal prison. I went to federal prison. I spent 12 years, 10 months, and 2 weeks, so I just rounded off to 13 years. And I used to use drugs. I used to sell drugs. But while I was in federal prison, and I had to kick this demon, the heroin, I call it a demon, because I decided when they sentenced me to 15 years, I decided that this was a new beginning for me. Okay, I knew who God was, I knew who Jesus Christ was, but I didn't have a relationship. You know how some people just go to church to be church, to say you go to church. That's what I was doing. So while I was in federal prison, I learned who Gail was. I learned what my gifts were. And while I was there, I took certified associate addiction profession to learn about. I wanted to learn about this drug, this demon that I had used for so long. So I took I did that for a year. I took non-residential drug program. Every drug program it was, I took, because I wanted to know. And so while I was there, like I said, I decided, okay, Lord, they wanted to give me 30, but you saw fit that I only got 15. What am I going to do with this? And that's when I decided it was my new beginning. So I wanted to change the way I think. I didn't want to think street mentality no more before I went to federal prison, I used to work for Illinois Bail. And I took an early retirement to sell drugs. That's when doing my drug use. I took an early retirement. They had a buyout at that time where you could take your age and your years and put it together. I had 17 and a half years. And that's when my drug use had first started. So I took that and I decided that I was going to be a drug dealer. And I told myself, if I'm going to do this and use drugs, I'm going to surround myself around all the ones that's got it. So I don't have to be a peon, basically. So I can learn about these streets, because I've never really been...
So you surrounded yourself with all drug dealers?
Yes.
All the ballers, huh?
All the ballers, shot callers, right?
Shot callers.
Yes. I sat at the table with them and I learned about this drug I was using.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was learning. So I was known for shaking the dope. I shook dope for quite a few people on the West.
Shaking dope.
Yes.
That's mixing it up?
Mixing it together, right. At that time, they was using dorms. Dorms. Yes.
Never heard of it, but dorms. Is dorms a pill?
Yes, it's a pill.
Okay, but it's a pill for something else, isn't it?
It's a sleep aid, right?
It's a sleep aid.
You can only buy. You could only buy it at the health food stores.
Okay.
And that's how
That's
I
how
learned.
you cut it with dorms.
Right.
To make it spread. And
Exactly.
be able to spread it out and make more money off of it.
Exactly. So this ended me up in federal prison. So that's when, like I said, that's when I went to federal
So
prison.
they must have caught you with quite a bit of drugs
I don't know. Well, yeah.
to get 30 years.
No, they offered me 30.
Oh.
They offered me
To
30.
offer you 30.
But I looked at it like this. Okay, God, this is what I said. I ain't killed nobody. I thought then the only person I hurt was me, not thinking about my family, which I hurted everybody that was surrounded around me, who supported me.
So you were selling it. You have any children? Did you have any kids at that time?
Yes.
So you were selling it, probably living a good life, but you also started messing around with drugs.
No, that's what made me. I started messing around first.
Oh, you started messing around first.
Right.
Then you wanted to make some money off of it.
Right.
So you can
Once they offer me
you
that-
can get it for free, right?
Well, I can work for it. I can put their, shake,
Yeah.
And during that time, it's, today, back then, I wore a badge of honor to be a dope fiend, because that's how your mind.
To be a dope fiend?
Right, that's what you were
That
called
was a
then.
badge of honor?
Yeah, back then, that's what I thought when I was using.
Yeah.
When I was using, because everybody needed me to shake their dope.
Oh.
Because what they used to say, oh, you ain't nothing but a connoisseur. I know how many times to hit it and what it wouldn't take. That's
so you
not
was
enough.
shaking dope for the other drug dealers.
Right.
So okay.
Right.
So you was like almost like a chemist, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they would hire you to shake
A
their
pharmacist.
dope. A pharmacist. Wow.
Yeah. And so, but I also had a habit. And no one ever disrespected me, but a lot of times I used to look in the mirror and I used to say, God, I'm so tired of this. And you have to be very careful what you ask God for. Mm-hmm. And I am a true believer. There is so much power in the tongue. And I said, Lord, I would say, I'm tired of this. When I finish shaking it, I have to transport it back to them. Now I got all these drugs on me.
Which is dangerous.
Yes. Have to study constantly, look through the mirror for the police, for the stick-up man. And I used to say, Lord, I'm so tired of this. Oh, I'm so tired of this. And I learned in life, when you say that, okay, he saw that I was actually tired. I didn't have a say-so in the consequences. Because me personally, I went into rehab for my mother, my father, my sister, my kids. But until Gail did it for Gail, it wasn't gonna last.
So you had been into rehab before you went to jail?
I had been in rehab maybe 6 times.
Trying to get it right.
Trying to get it right. I wasn't trying to get it right.
But
I'm not gonna tell you no lie. I wasn't.
But the heroin, so you was taking heroin?
Yes.
Which is a physical addiction, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because if you stop taking it, you start hurting, right?
You would be sick, you would
You get
throw up.
sick.
if any of y'all ever seen A Lady Sings the Blues,
Yeah.
That's true. You ball up, it is really true.
Very painful.
Yes, I am so grateful to be able to sit here today to tell somebody, if the same God did it for me, He can do it for you.
So was it getting busted kind of helped save your life?
Yes. You know how some people say you get arrested? I got saved. I got saved because, like I said, I had been in several rehabs, and I would tell myself, I'm just going in there for a rest, to give my body a rest. Truly, your mind is so cloudy, and you always say, you know, your family would tell you, you need to get off that stuff. It wasn't that easy.
So you was almost like a functional addict?
Yes, I was.
So you was able to do everything?
But because I had such access to so much of it. I used to use 5 grams of dope a day.
So you was actually almost, people think they functional addicts, but really they be fooling themselves,
yes,
right?
That's all. That's all.
You think you functioning.
Right. You know, I was able to pay my rent. I was able to pay. I never was one to wear, you know, no big cars and all that stuff. I was always try to stay low key.
So once you went into being incarcerated and you took those classes and you learned about the addiction and the illness, right? Because what they say, heroin is a mental and a physical. Is it mental and physical?
Yes.
Mental and physical.
Yes.
Addiction. So you got to see it from a different point of view.
Yes, I did.
Right, and you really saw your weakness.
Yes.
Right, and so after doing this and taking those classes, so did that motivate you to want to help other people, or what made you come out here and want to help other people?
When I came, well, in federal prison, believe it or not, drugs are there.
Yeah.
And
every prison is
yes,
there, even in the county jail.
And you know, but federal prison, there's no gates, no bars. I was in a camp, you know, so you'd be surprised what goes on in there, you know. And I had told this girl, no one had never offered it to me until this one girl one day said, Miss Gail, I said, baby, let me tell you something. I come too far. I said, baby, that demon ain't nothing nice. I'm not going there again. I said, and I didn't come to jail to go to jail. Because that's what I'll be doing, putting myself right back in jail.
Imprisoning yourself.
Yes. So I decided, okay, when I came out, I used to dispatch and drive cab also doing my drug use. So my kids were so worried, you know, when you first come out, they don't know how to accept you. You know, they watching everything you do, and which is okay. It was okay for me. But that long time being gone, everything was new to me. Phones, you know, how to use a phone. So I had to learn how to get back into society. So I said, I'm going to work at the cab stand. My daughter said, you want to work at the cab stand? I said, well, I got to, you know, make a living for myself. So I went to work at the cab stand. And the atmosphere wasn't the same anymore, which I was glad. Because back during that time, people sold drugs, the drivers would bring you drugs while you dispatched to make sure I'm serious. So, but it wasn't this.
Make sure you give them the good jobs. So.
Make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being honest. So, and it was just a different atmosphere, you know, and people don't see you the same no more. People can tell when you've changed.
That's good.
And like it was like every spot, every time I walked, somebody was giving away a pass out.
Mm-hmm. That's free drugs.
Yes.
Pass out is free drugs.
Yes. And it never fazed me. I would just keep on walking until one day this guy asked me, Gail, do me a favor. I said, what? Go back there and get that free pass out. I said, baby, I ain't going back there for my mama. I said, you got a lot of balls. You gonna ask me to go back there to do something for you that I ain't gonna do for myself? I said, that tells me what you think of me, you know. And my daughter just happened to be pulling up and she let him have it. She just went ballistic. I said, you don't have to worry about that because Gail has made up in her heart and her mind. I can't go back down that road.
So I'm sure, Gail, from the time you started that, right, and the time you came home, probably a lot of the people you started with wasn't around anymore.
No, they wasn't.
So a lot of folks probably died, got killed, OD'd,
right,
a whole bunch of other things. I'm sure it was a very totally different situation.
Yes, it was.
And you probably looked at all of that and say, Lord God, that could have been me.
Yeah, I've said that, and I'll say the devil is a liar. They tease me about that, because I will say that in a minute. Because you have to know when the enemy is trying to attack you.
That's great.
And I am a firm believer, if you just get you a word to say. Jesus is powerful just by itself. Just the name of Jesus.
Amen.
I am so serious. So my sister told me, you know, Gail, you good at what you're doing. Everybody know you. I know you always talking about you gonna be a drug counselor. You wanna be a drug counselor. Won't you go? I know somebody that she told me about them. So I called him up, and he told me he wasn't hiring, but I wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't get off the phone. I just wouldn't. I just kept on talking to him and kept on talking. So he said, come on down here, let me do an interview with you. So, which is Lucius. So he, you know, doing the interview, I never knew who Lee was. Lee was actually sitting on the side. And when Lou was doing the interview, Lou said, came back with a piece of paper for you to fill out, you're hired. And this I said, oh Lord, I thank you. Ooh, Lord. But before I did that, I did home health care for my mother. And I had so much problems getting a waiver because I had been locked up. And I'm also a mentor for the federal judges downtown at 219 South Dearborn. They had a second chance program. I went in it for the wrong reasons when I first got out of prison. I was getting out, doing it because I found out they take off your paper. So I'm going in it I'm telling you the truth. I went in it for the wrong, but when you go in for the wrong reason, God be laughing at you sometimes.
He motivates you to do the right thing.
Yes, I got something out of that second chance program. And while I was in that second chance, the program lasts from 12 months to 18 months, and they take away your paper.
So what you had to do was to motivate and mentor other people.
Once I graduated.
To be off of drugs.
Right, and how did I stay off of drugs.
That's good.
And
that's what they say. Sometimes even when you preach to people, you get preached to yourself.
That's right.
Right.
As you minister to someone else, you be ministering to yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good. So you ended up getting with these guys, and they hired you to be a prevention specialist.
No, they hired me as just as an outreach worker.
As an outreach worker. So your job is to go out in the community, talk to people, teach people, talk to people about being on drugs and getting off, but also talk to people about helping themselves if somebody happened to OD.
Right, and there has been people that have asked for my phone number. Sure, you can call me. Because while
you gotta be careful, you're a pretty girl. You know, you guys asking for your phone number,
man. No, I don't look at it like that. I'm here, I'm an instrument, use me.
Yeah.
And I haven't run across anyone like that yet, thank God.
Okay.
And if they call me and they want to talk and they want to go on a rehab, I get on that telephone because we have a lot of providers with us that collaborate with us.
So you all help folks get right into rehab.
If that's what they want to do.
All right. So let me go to Keith, then let's talk about everything that you all do.
Okay.
So Keith, why don't you tell the audience who Keith is?
Keith Davis. I've been with the partnership for going on 2 years. I started in 21.
And thank you for sharing.
Fantastic opportunity. A little bit about myself. I've been, living on the west side of Chicago. I'm 57. I just celebrated a birthday. I'm 57. I've been on the west side for the last 50 plus years. I want to say 52. I moved away briefly, but I've been back. Again, been with partnership for the last 2 years now, and it's gratifying. I'm a recovering heroin addict. I used for about 16 years. I've been clean. May 12, 1994 is my clean date. That was the last time that I used anything. Wow. One day at a time, God's grace and His mercy. I got into not nonprofit, but social services. I was a former TAS client. I was a TAS client, 1994 until I completed probation in 97. 2004, in year 10 in my recovery, I was able to become an employee with TAS and became a caseworker. And that started my foray into helping people. So since 2004 to 2006, that's what I've been doing. Some form of social services in one form or another, basically casework, case management. Fast forward 2019, I started at a behavioral health hospital. And it was okay, it was gratifying, it was rewarding, but when I got wind of Prevention Partnership, the opportunity was just a little bit better. And I changed professions, and I've been doing this ever since.
Fantastic. So, one thing I want to say, thank you for sharing, too. You guys look great. Like I told you all the last time, I probably got to get my hair straight like that so I can look young or get a bald head like you, Keith, so I can look younger, man. Because y'all look good, man. Y'all look good, Praise God, because, we see the brothers and sisters that's out there getting high, and, it really zombie them up.
Yes, sir, it does.
It's like suck out all the life in them, and you see skins and bones. But thank all of you all for what you do in the community. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of what you all do out there. And in no order, anybody can chime in. Tell me, and I know you cats. I'm sorry, that's old school stuff,
I know.
Right?
I understand.
Yeah, you all can identify, right? And so people can feel you because you've been there, done that.
Yes.
Matter of fact, you've probably been there and done that with some of them you talk to, right?
Yes.
Right? Or sold something to them or whatever, right? And I want to make sure that people know that heroin is probably one of the few drugs that you can kind of camouflage a lot more than other drugs, because you can still be somewhat functional, right? And folks still go to work.
Yes.
And they still, perform with their family, and then they seem like they go somewhere and go to sleep, right? And so there's people from all walks of life.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
So true.
Black people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, people who come from poor backgrounds, people who come from, cultured backgrounds, rich backgrounds, educated backgrounds. A lot of folks get into this. And I know, we've been getting we've been hit with this.
Yes.
Fentanyl.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you used to shake up the dorms, now they're shaking up fentanyl. That took the place of the dorms, right?
It also took the place of the heroin. They're not using heroin.
They're not even using heroin, they're
No.
using straight fentanyl.
Fentanyl and another pill.
Huh?
Right.
And another pill.
Right.
And another pill.
Right.
So those things, this stuff has become from folks trying to camouflage and be functional addicts to people just falling out.
Yes. Yes.
And almost dying on the street.
Yes.
Right? So why don't you tell me, or tell the audience, exactly what do you all do, right? I know you not only do things, but you help other people to do things to help other people, right?
May I tell you, this all started, this outreach team started when Luther Sias, who's our outreach director, and again, our co-founder, probably lived in Chicago in the West Side, probably almost 50 years himself. When we were asked to be the coordinating agency, one of the first things that we said, if you want to save lives, you got to get Narcan or naloxone out, the antidote, which will reverse an overdose in about 1.5 to 2 minutes. Okay, and Okay, I'm going to let Gail show this, but in looking around, Luther has found that there were some providers, like Chicago Recovery Alliance and Chicago Recovering Communities Coalition, that were able to give out Narcan, but it wasn't nearly at the scale.
So what is Narcan? So the audience don't know what Narcan is. Okay, so explain, what is Narcan?
Narcan is a brand name for a spray version of naloxone. Naloxone is a drug that, when given to somebody who has opioids in their system, will block the opiate receptors in the brain that will stop the opioids from affecting the body. When people are overdosing on opioids, essentially the brain that controls respiration, that part of the brain that controls it, goes to sleep, doesn't work anymore, and people end up asphyxiating. They stop breathing and die from lack of oxygen. This drug has been around, not the sprayed version, but naloxone has been around since 1976.
Wow.
I heard about it back when I was doing street outreach back in the day. But it really didn't rise to prominence as something that was at the level it is now until we hit that opioid epidemic that was really doctor-driven or prescription-driven, probably back in 2000, et cetera.
So what type of opioid is that that's doctor-driven?
Well, there was the Oxy, from
Oxycontin. So they can get that from the doctors in pills.
Right, exactly.
So folks would get it from the doctors with pills and take it themselves or sell it on the street, right?
Exactly, and that got out, and as we know from the opioid settlements, there were a number of other producers of this drug and distributors of these drugs, like the pharmacies and the pharmaceutical companies. They just basically incentivized their salespeople. They used doctors to push it as a safe drug. Just like every time that an opioid comes out, a new one said, well, this is a safe one. They used to call heroin a safe drug back when it first came out.
Right.
And Oxy was time released, but they never thought of somebody opening it up and crushing it up and snorting it as a way to get used to it. So Narcan and naloxone started showing up, not so much on the west side, not so much of communities in color, but in the communities, outside of the city.
Middle class.
Middle class. And really, when Luther was starting to look at this, we realized we were not getting on the west side nearly the amount of naloxone or Narcan as some of the suburbs were doing.
So basically, some of the folks from the community, if they would get some of that Oxycontin that somebody may sell them, they would literally fall out and some of them would die.
Right. And there had always been a kind of a heroin trade. I mean, Gail was a part of that on the west side, but it didn't attract the attention that it did once it kind of got spread outside of the inner cities.
And is very addicting. You can get addicted to it,
right? Just
like on heroin.
Yeah. So
and probably faster, right?
Yeah, and the government started cracking down on the prescriptions of those. People started seeking the illicit market to be able to use this. So anyway, from what Luther saw, he said, I know people who know where all this is going on. We used to get heat maps that were about a year and a half old, very good heat maps, but they were based on coroner's office about deaths. There were always a big lag. So when Lou went out with a few
So
of the...
a heat map is...
Heat map is a visual representation on a community map where the preponderance of overdoses is happening. So you'll see a bright yellow spot. That's where, a large portion has happened. So it was his idea to, let's get a team out there who feel comfortable going to where these hotspots are, where drugs are being sold and used, and go out there, and they're not afraid to be in the community. They're not always looking over their shoulder. They'll actually take a bag. I think Keith brought one with them, put it over their shoulder and walk the streets, go down the alleys, and meet people and say, hey, do you know how to reverse an overdose? Well, let me show you how. Fast forward through 2.5 years, we now have other providers out there with us doing this work, so that if they have a treatment program or they can start somebody on methadone or another drug, Suboxone, we can get, when somebody tired like Gail says, I'm tired, we got just the person you can talk to. if you want to go, because that tiredness might go away from the next bump that they have,
Right.
and everything's cool again. So it's, timing's very important. But about 2 years ago, one of our providers went out with us, with the team, and he, first of all, even though it was an organization from that community, when he stepped out of the office, he could not believe the scale of the problem out there. It was primarily on Pulaski, between the green line and the blue line. And he also was very, very impressed by the rapport that these folks had with that people who were using actually came over and talked to him, gave them information, stuck around and learned about how to save a life. And that began this kind of revolution, really something that had not really been happening on the west side, that street level work. And these folks are the ones that have been carrying it out for the last, 2 years or so.
So you all basically try to go and save people's lives, right? So you go out and you talk to people who have been addicted or who are addicted.
Yes. Yeah.
And you don't really go out and try to turn them from being addicted. You really go out to just let them know, if you're doing this,
Right.
If you're doing this and you or your boy or your girl happen to fall out of something, this is what you can do to save their lives, right? But then if they say, hey, I'm tired of doing this, then you refer them to a treatment center.
Yes, sir.
Right. Sometimes we have them right there, which is a warm handout, where we can actually hand them right then and there to the provider if they're on spot.
All right. So you try to get them when they're ready.
Right.
So and so people are receptive to that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So they feel you. They feel like you all really care and know what you're talking about.
Right.
So you show and you show one thing, Gail. That was a one that you spray in your nose. There's another one, right?
Yes.
So can you explain that?
We don't offer, which is the syringe.
Oh, you got a syringe too.
Right. There's 2 different forms they can use it as. Most people don't want the needle because they're afraid of needles.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll prefer, we only give the syringe if they ask for the syringe.
Okay.
And then when we do the training, we'll do training on both. We'll tell them about, because they both do the same thing. One just goes in the arm, where the muscle part, or the thigh, and we let them know it can go straight through their clothes. Or we'll give them both training, but most of them ask for the spray, the Narcan, instead of the naloxone.
All right, so you all got excused. There's a little work going on in the basement of my building, so apologize about the noise. So give me a scenario. Tell me how y'all do it. Tell folks literally what you do, and then not only I know do you just teach people on the street, you go to offices and institutions to tell people in offices like you taught my staff.
Right.
Me
Yes,
and my staff and I are aware of it, and so we are a spot. If somebody happen to fall out, we can go and try to help save somebody's life. So tell me how you guys do this.
We
You want to do a training session?
We go to faith bases, we go to churches, we go wherever the need is.
And you train everybody.
Yes. We work hot spots where they actually sell drugs every day, 6 days a week.
So unfortunately, we only got 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Okay, time really flies, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
So 2 things. How are you all funded?
We're funded from the state of Illinois, Substance Use Prevention and Recovery Department of the Illinois Department of Human Services. Our convener, Representative LaShawn Ford, has been a champion in getting dollars out to the community, and not just for our organization and the task force, but for many other organizations, and also the mental health and behavioral health folks. So we work with SUPER, that's the acronym, and
you have a non-for-profit too?
We are a not-for-profit.
So do you take donations?
We do take donations.
Do you have fundraisers and stuff like that?
We have fundraisers. We're not a fundraiser-heavy organization, but we just had our 36th anniversary gala where we did some fundraising, but we also take donations.
And then how many people do you employ, like Gail?
Well, we actually on this we have almost like 19 street outreach workers
Yes.
now,
Yes.
and people who do various jobs to support what they're doing. And the rest of the organization, I think there's 10 other people. So we're a relatively small.
Do people volunteer? Are they able to volunteer too?
We do have volunteers.
So how do people contact you?
They can call us at for the task force, it's 773-450-1567. We're located at 5936 West Lake Street.
So let's say if I got a brother or sister or a child who I know get high, and I'm always afraid, right, when they fall asleep or something, right? Can I call you all and get a kit and y'all show me how to use it?
Absolutely. We'll train you in our office.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to your facility. We'll meet you out on the street to do it, and we'll train anybody. You know, we've had I think 2 or 3 people kind of by themselves or in pairs come in and get trained every.
Yes.
Do you
year.
have a website?
We do. I can't quote it right offhand. P Squared Online, psquaredonline.org.
P Square.
Prevention Partnership Online.org.
Okay.
And,
So you can go there to get information. Can you go there and donate? Can you go there and volunteer? All of the above?
All those above. And you know, speaking of donations, probably the number one donation we need is clothes and for the season. We're, knock on wood, coming a little bit out of the winter season, but we still need warm clothing.
So you help the folks that's out there with
Yes.
clothes,
Pass
and
out
Yes.
clothes.
you give them food and.
We have a soup man that comes out with us on Thursday.
Okay,
We
so
pass
y'all
out
like
soup.
holistic. Okay, y'all do everything.
And you know, and isn't just the clothes people, but it also, I mean,
So what if
selfishly,
somebody in the community say, "Hey, guys,
We go.
I got a hot spot over here. You know, over here in this hidden area by my house,
We come.
Okay.
We come in.
it's a lot of guys over there who need to be talked to. Can you all go?"
Yes, we do that.
All right, fantastic. So again, I want to thank you all for coming on to the show. Lee, Gail, and Keith Davis, Lee Rusch, Gail Richardson and Keith Davis with the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force, located at 5936 West Lake Street, along with Prevention Partnership, trying to help save lives in the community and trying to help people save their lives, right?
Exactly.
But also servicing people with clothes and a meal and other things while they're going through their transition, and hopefully that they'll turn it around, and also direct folks to getting into a institution where they want to get clean at. So I want to say thank you all very much. God bless you all. I really admire and appreciate your strength of what you've gone through and where you are today and how you're giving back. And I know, I was just thinking about how you say you didn't give up, you kept calling and calling.
Yes.
I know back in the day when you were doing your thing, you didn't give up either, right?
That's right.
So you just
Right.
took that strength that you had for that negative stuff and made it positive. So I just want to say God bless you all, and I always say that every person that's out here, no matter what they doing, they got power.
Yes.
They just got to know how to tap into it and turn it around. So I'm glad that you all turned it around and you sharing and helping people. And to me, what you all doing is a ministry. So God bless you all for what you're doing. Thank you for coming on to Network 27. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and make sure you go out and vote. We need that power. Go out and vote. But also, most important, make sure you tap into this organization. You may think you don't have anybody that's messing with this today, but you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You may need something to help save their lives. So get tapped in and help folks to save their lives. God bless you all. Thank everybody for helping me put the show together. And again, thank you for watching Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett signing off. God bless. Thank you.